Okay, how are we? So I just said I'd do a quick video on urban change in Dublin. Now, I'll be doing this in class with you anyway, in the online class, but just in case, just if you want to look back over it and get a better understanding, this video will help you. So we know what an urban area is. It's a large area. It has a large population. You're talking cities and large towns, okay? So we're going to zone in on Dublin City. Now, I started a little bit of this in class with you before Christmas, but we didn't even get time to get through it. So urban change in Dublin. Dublin is a big city. It's constantly changing, be it in how it uses the land or the population size, okay? So we looked at this already in class. Urban areas around the world are constantly changing. I mean, look at Shanghai in the 1990s. It was a very small setup. Fast forward 25 years later and you're looking at a hugely built up city, skyscraper buildings. So we always do change our urban areas. So urban change happens in cities and towns and built up areas. Why do we change our urban areas? Because the population's needs change. Like, you know, maybe we need more shopping. The higher the population, the more supermarkets you need. The higher the population, the more transport services you need. So you need to change your cities and your large towns to cater for the needs of the people there. Like we're seeing in rural areas in Ireland that post offices are shutting, pubs are shutting, shops are shutting in rural areas. Why? Because you've fewer people living there. A lot of people have migrated and left. So if the demand isn't there, you don't grow your town. Okay, so that's why we see a lot of growth in urban areas, because they have larger populations. So we looked at this in class. What changes has Kanturk seen over the last 10-20 years? And my God, it was huge. Like you nearly educated me on what has happened in Kanturk over the last number of years. So when urban change happens in towns and cities, it can change the way land is used, the types of buildings constructed, and the urban areas can also be expanded. For example, if you look at the picture there in front of you, you're looking at the it's kind of where the headquarters of all the Google and Facebook and Yahoo and all them are located up in Dublin City. They're located in the Grand Canal Dock area. Now, they weren't always office buildings and they weren't always there. That area years ago, the canal was used for bringing in goods from the port. And basically they brought them in via the boats along the canal, and the canal went inland through the rivers, okay, and distributed them to the towns. The canal didn't, and all alongside the canal, then you'd loads of factories, because the factories used to use the canal to transport their goods. But then what we did was we started developing the port even better, and then we built motorways so the trucks could pick up the stuff at the ports and they could deliver them via our motorways to all the different towns across Ireland. So basically the canal became redundant and we didn't need to use it anymore. So what happened to that area was it became run down and abandoned, and factories were boarded up. And then they decided, hang on, we should change the use of the land here. Is there anything, what's the demand out there? And they found that multinational companies wanted to locate in Dublin and they couldn't find the office space. So they decided to build a load of office buildings in the Grand Canal Dock area. They changed the land use to office, commercial use, and basically it's taken off. So there is now a space for Facebook and Google and Yahoo to actually locate their offices there. So when we're changing cities and how they're used and large towns, you can change the use of the land. You can build higher buildings and you can expand the cities as well. So this growth of urban areas, or this growth of cities, we call it urbanization. So urbanization is happening in Dublin, it's happening in London and in Paris and in any of the big towns or cities. For God's sake, urbanization is happening in Mallow, it's happening in Cork City. It's just the growth and the spread of towns and cities out into the, you know, I suppose up building height wise and outwards into the surrounding areas. So make sure you're okay with that term, urbanization, the growth of urban areas. Okay, that's fine. So cities like Dublin are constantly undergoing changes in area size and in population. Like the area size of Dublin is swallowing up the counties around it because it keeps spreading out and out and out to try and accommodate everyone that wants to live there. The population of Dublin has been increasing rapidly all throughout the last number of decades. So Dublin is constantly changing. Will the population continue to rise? Absolutely, without a doubt. Okay, so this is just a picture I've taken from your ebook. We need to first of all look at the causes of population change. What has caused the population to rise in Dublin? Because the population has risen in Dublin, we've had urbanization. So you can see that in the centre. Dublin city has grown. It's grown rapidly. And what are the effects of this urbanization? So there's good and there's bad effects of it, really. You know, there's good things to seeing a city grow and there's bad things. So we'll look at all of these. So let's start off first of all very quickly. Just a quick look at this because you understand population well. We've studied it loads in class. What has caused the population to grow so much in Dublin? Well, look at the first bubble in the top left-hand corner. There's just been a natural high increase in population. The population has naturally grown in Dublin. People have been having children. Okay, that's simple. The birth rate is higher than the death rate. So like it says there in the bubble, it tends to occur in areas with a young adult population. So there's pockets of Dublin that have areas with a large number of young people in their 20s and 30s. So those are the people that are going to be having children. So that's where we're seeing the amount of babies being born. That's why we're seeing population growth. So it's just a natural increase in population. What else is causing the population to rise in Dublin? Immigration. People are coming into Ireland to live in Dublin. So immigration occurs when people choose to move from their country into Dublin for economic reasons. So they're coming in looking for a job, okay, for example. So they often choose to settle where there are good job prospects. There's lots of job availabilities in Dublin, be it in hospitals as a doctor, a surgeon, be it in the commercial sector, the Grand Canal docks with Google and Facebook, in the services, in the shops, shopping centres, etc. So they're coming for the good job prospects, the good transport links. So Dublin is well linked up to the rest of the country, and an existing community or network of people from their homeland. Like you can be guaranteed that if there's a lot of Polish people living up in Dublin, they probably moved over because they knew people living there already from their own hometown. So that was comforting and encouraged them to locate over to Dublin because there was already people from their own existing community there. So that's seen an increase in population rise in Dublin. In the bottom right-hand corner, then, another reason why we've seen a large increase in Dublin's population is because of rural to urban migration, which means that people have left rural Ireland and have moved into Dublin city. That has caused a huge growth in Dublin city. What are the reasons why people leave rural Ireland and move into Dublin city? Better jobs, better social life, sick of rural Ireland, sick of the poor Wi-Fi, lack of no friends around them. The friends have migrated and left, no job opportunities, just a better lifestyle in general, really. And finally, in the bottom left-hand corner, what's also and finally contributed to an increase in Dublin's population is migration within the city itself. So, like, you know, that's something we never really thought about before. Like, people might be living in Dublin city centre and might say, hang on here a second, the rent is too expensive. I'm going to actually move to the outskirts of Dublin city where the rent is cheaper. So migration within a city occurs when people move from one part of the city to another. This can occur as a result of planned initiatives, personal choices, or changes in your circumstances. Like your job might have been relocated from Dublin city to the outskirts. It just makes sense for you to move out there. The movement of people years ago from Dublin inner city out to Ballymun was an example of people migrating long term from one region to another. So you can see now why Dublin's population in general has gotten so high. Naturally it increased because they had babies. People moved into the country looking for work. People moved in from rural Ireland, and people are constantly moving around the city and the county of Dublin itself. Just a quick few photos to explain that even further. So Fingal in North County Dublin would be one example of an area with a high young adult population. So we see a lot of young adults living in that region of Dublin, in North County Dublin, and they're what's causing the natural increase, the rise in Dublin's population. Like I said, we have a lot of people moving into Dublin from abroad, and they're coming in for better jobs and meeting family members that already have moved in there. We've a lot of rural to urban migration. A lot of you will probably end up doing that in future as well. Better job prospects, better social life. That example that I was talking to you about, where you've people migrating within the city of Dublin itself and the county of Dublin. If you look at Dublin city centre, which is the black square there in the middle, and if you look up to the northeast of it, you'll see Ballymun there, just literally nearly sitting on the M50. Like I think it was the 60s or 70s. I'll clarify that later on with you anyway. Basically, the Irish government decided we're going to move the houses in Dublin City were overcrowded at the time. So they moved a lot of young adults out to Ballymun, and they built big housing complexes for them, big, ugly, God forgive me, looking apartment blocks, and they moved them out there. They organised basically the movement of these people out to Ballymun. And those young people, they were young adults, and they started to have their children, and they increased the population of that Ballymun area. So you can see how population can increase. So there's a picture actually of the flats in Ballymun after they were constructed. So I will talk to you about them in more detail as we go through this whole section of urban changes and how it affects a city. You know, the advantages and disadvantages. Okay. Very, very quickly, I suppose if we look at Dublin's population versus the population in rural Ireland, like the darker the colour on the map there of Ireland, the higher the population is. The lighter the colour, the lower the population is. So clearly, big urban areas gather big populations. If we look at the population changes in counties across Ireland, and if we compare and contrast them, like between 2011 and 2016, so over a 5-year period, Dublin rose its population by 5%. So Dublin's population grew by 5%, whereas in that same 5-year period, Donegal literally decreased its population by 1.5%. So people obviously left, they emigrated out of there. Mayo dropped its population by 0.2%. Sligo dropped its population by 0.1%. So people are leaving rural areas and they are migrating to urban areas. So Dublin County cannot fully accommodate all the people who actually want to live within their county borders. There isn't enough space to accommodate everyone. Everyone's fighting over space for houses, for office blocks, for shops, retail, factories, etc. So they can't accommodate everyone that they need to. So because of this, Dublin has basically grown out into the surrounding counties. So the counties of Meath, Kildare, Wicklow, they've seen big increases in their population as people are forced to live in these counties instead. They're really forced to live in those counties because the rent is cheaper, to be honest. If you look at the growth of the population in these counties, these 3 surrounding counties around Dublin, Meath, Kildare and Wicklow, in that 5-year period between 2011 and 2016, like it's astonishing. Meath grew its population by 6%. Kildare almost 6% rise in population, and Wicklow over 4% increase in population. Like that'll tell you the influence that Dublin cities and Dublin counties growth has in its surrounding counties. Will we even call them County Meath, County Kildare, County Wicklow in future? Will it be just one giant County Dublin? So you're seeing where people are choosing to live and how it's affecting the population growth. So we call these towns then commuter towns, because you're living in Meath, Wicklow and Kildare, but you're commuting in and out to your job in Dublin City. Now that can have a benefit because you've still got the advantage of living in the country. You're living outside of the city centre and you're in the lovely country, I suppose, essentially. But then the disadvantage of that is the big commuter drive and stuck in long delays of traffic. Now I'll do that in the next video. Okay, I hope I've explained everything okay.